We do see the top 5% of the teams or agents doing, 95% of the business. What do you know now that you wish you would have known, say, 5, 7 years ago?
Always in October that we've spoke about, we saw for a third week in a row, nearly 1,000 price improvements. So we are feeling that in the market. That's why it's important that we price it ahead of the market versus with the market.
What keeps the market going up? Right, like over time, over a timeline, we know that stock markets, real estate markets go up and to the right, continue to go. So I asked Gary about that, being the oracle of real estate, and he said labor, right? Essentially labor costs.
I've been in listing appointments too, where the other agent said that they could, sell my house for XYZ. I'm not there to just win your listing and tell you what you want to hear.
That's right. That's right. And we call that buying the listing, right? We know there are people go out and tell you a price you want to hear. All right, welcome back, everybody, to another week of the Market Pulse with Danna and David, bringing you information about what's going on in the local real estate market here in Middle Tennessee, primarily focused on Wilson County, Sumner County, Davidson County, Rutherford County, and sprinkling in a little bit of the Williamson County, right? And so sprinkle in, right, as we've started to expand that way a little bit. What's up, Danna? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Looks like you've been at the beach.
I know. I wish I was at the beach today, but it's so hot.
Oh my God, it's so hot. It's like August hot. It's not supposed to be this hot yet. So it's as we're recording this, it's June 30th. So yeah, flirting with the high 90s, almost 100. So hopefully everybody out there is staying cool. I know we had our outdoor practices canceled this week. Are you guys practicing right now?
No.
Yeah. We're in dead week anyway, so most everybody's out. Football is ramping up. Seems like everybody around town starting to get back from some vacations, and so settling back in. So what's going on in your world? What's been happening in the last few weeks?
We went on vacation last week and was bookended by, of course, baseball, and so we have a little 2-week hiatus, and then we actually go up to Cooperstown for Colton, and I'm down to Charleston for Blake. So it'll be exciting.
Awesome.
2 big tournaments, so we're excited.
Yeah, I guess Cooperstown, I just found out, I guess you have to win like a bid for that, right? It's kind of a raffle, or once you're in.
You can win a bid, but you can also, it can be given away, like if you choose, if your team chooses not to elect it. So,
Gotcha.
But it's an experience. Like I'm so glad Blake got to experience it, and I hope it's just as memorable for Colton. So I consider it like it's like the Masters of Little League.
I love that. That's a great way to put it.
You can only wear navy or red. You can't sit on the sidelines. Like there's no bleachers, chairs. You have to go into like a fenced in area, and it's all private.
That's awesome. Yeah. It sounds like the Masters, lots of rules. Yeah, I'd love to take the boys up to Nebraska and let them see the World Series at some point. I've heard that's an event to experience as well.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
All right, so we're usually talking about what's going on in the market. Let's do a quick update on that. And then I want to ask you some questions just about being an agent, right? How you got into it, what you've learned, maybe some advice for other agents out there. But real quick, catch me up. What are you seeing in the local market? What are the numbers telling us?
Yes. So I think we've been talking about, what we've been seeing in terms of showings and contracts and that type of thing. And so I feel like it's been a little bit steady with contracts. I saw showings tick up a little bit this past weekend. The couple weekends leading up to that, it was actually a little slow out there. And we're still seeing record number. I wouldn't say record number, but since October that we've spoke about, we saw for a third week in a row, nearly 1,000 price improvements. So we are feeling that in the market. That's why it's important that we price it ahead of the market versus with the market, because what I priced out and that hasn't sold in the last 90 days, those comps are already gone, right? And so it's a brand new set of comps.
Yeah, and I think, again, we've been doing this 20 years. You've been doing it for a decade. And as we kind of get into it, we recognize that there's a time where you price according to what's recently sold. And then in this part of the market, you really have to price according to what the competition is doing. So what something might have closed at 90 days ago or 6 months ago, a little bit irrelevant as we start to see more and more price adjustments or price improvements being made to the homes. I think a lot of sellers are getting real on what's happening, right? Rates probably not seeing a whole lot of movement now, probably not seeing a whole lot of movement maybe even the next year. I mean, the 6% is probably where we land as just the fair, 5, 9, or 6. I think that's enough to get the market moving. Right now, we're probably still hovering around 6.5. So we'll see that come down, right? We get some of this things going on in the world settle down. we'll kind of see that settle in. I think we'll see this fall and next spring start to normalize. But right now, sellers really feeling the pinch to push the price down a little bit to get aggressive on it in order to get the home moving, which I think makes a ton of sense, right? And I was talking to Gary Keller yesterday, and kind of saying like the market has, and I said, Gary, what happens? Markets are cyclical; they follow a pattern. What changes that? What could happen to where the market doesn't follow a pattern? And he just said, so David, you think since the beginning of the last 500 years even of how market cycles work, not necessarily real estate, but just market cycles. He's like, you think something's going to disrupt that or change it? It's just, you kind of go like, of course not. I mean, the way you ask the question. So you go like, yeah, markets follow a cycle, right? And so we will see prices adjust there somewhat. It just may take an expanded amount of time because we had a limited number of builders building. We're still a million homes shy in the market from builders not building from 2008 all the way through to 22, 23. There's not enough inventory out there to really balance out supply and demand. Otherwise, we would see prices dropping significantly. And it might take us years to recover from that, which makes me might just be in this market. Do you call this a good market, bad market, or just a market, Dana? How do you feel about it?
I mean, it's always going to have a cycle, like you said, right? We had a fabulous spring, right? And so as agents, right, we still sometimes, even though we're taught not to get caught in the cycle and focus on the future business, right? We're getting focused on the now business and servicing that business. And so we look up, right? In that 60 to 90 days later, right? It feels a little bit quieter. Um, and at the same time, right, we've got lots of listings as a team sitting out there. And so they're getting showings, and yet buyers are still taking time to consider if they want to make an offer because there is inventory out there. And do they want to build? Do they want to buy existing new construction? Do they want to buy something that it's resale and they can remodel, or a resale that's already, ready and move in ready? So I would say it's still pretty balanced. I think as a seller out there, you feel like it's more, of a buyer's market, just because, we've got that inventory sitting.
I think if you're a buyer, you still feel like it's a little bit of a seller. I think it depends on the side of the fence you're on, but I do think it's a fairly balanced market. There is no bad time to buy real estate. There's no bad time to buy the right piece of real estate. Maybe that's the better way to put it. Lots of deals and lots of good opportunities happen in slower markets, and great deals happen in faster markets, and people overpay in faster markets. And so I think we're just seeing people take longer to make decisions, although that doesn't necessarily make it good or bad. And so looking statistically at the market, still hovering around the 700 units a week appended in the 4 county area that we really focus on, which is about on par. We know in June we're going to see a little bit of a pullback as school gets out, people take vacation. That's why we see July closings dip a little bit. Then we start to feel, like you said, showings are picking up. We'll see over the next 4 or 5 weeks, people start to kind of refocus on getting something close to when schools go back or getting settled in. And then we kind of go through the September, October, mid season, if you want to call it. And then before you get back from the holidays, another thing happens all over again. So, point being, if you are looking to make a move, having a proper agent, having an intelligent agent that knows how to navigate the market, understanding the cycles to it, can be a huge benefit when it comes to getting the right prices, getting the right terms. Because I think terms probably matter more right now than pricing as far as what's going on and how to get a good deal in it. So, Dana, you've been an agent for over 10 years. You and I have been working together forever. You're probably the best listing agent. Not probably, you're the number one listing agent in Wilson County. Have been for a long time. What have you learned through being an agent? If someone were getting into this business right now, or we're an agent, maybe kind of struggling, because we do see the top 5% of the teams or agents doing 90, 95% of the business. What do you know now that you wish you would have known, say, 5, 7 years ago?
I would say, I don't know if it would be 5 or 7 years ago, but I will say that you've got to have the right expectations, and you've got to have the grit and the grind, because it isn't just HGTV showing up, right, and showing houses and selling houses and all the fun, right? It's not always butterflies and rainbows. It takes work, and it takes discipline, and it takes knowledge and power too, right? And studying, the local markets that you're working in, right? And putting kind of the work in outside of the actual, transaction, right? And buttoning up those transactions as much as possible. But I think a lot of times people come in with the expectation that they're going to make money right out of the gate, that it's going to be, not hard. You're just selling houses, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that a lot of agents don't see, as soon as they get into the business. And just making sure, how to coach really early on because it can stress you out. I mean, that I used to cry all, all the time when I first got into the business. And I did have a
You
coach one
still
time.
cry all the time. It's fine.
Yeah. Write down everything you can control in the transaction, right? As a seller, I can't control if a buyer backs out of the transaction because of foundation issues. I can just make sure that's buttoned up for the next buyer, right? I can't control if a buyer loses financing. And yet I can control making sure we get those buyers in the good hands of good lenders. And so writing down what you can control and what you can't control out of the transaction will help set you up for success to where it's not mentally dragging you down because it can take a lot out of you for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is work. The barrier to entry, I think you say that so well. The barrier to entry is so low. Real estate is not complicated, but it can be complex. And I think that's where people miss. Um, Unfortunately, consumers only move on average once every 10 years. Most people maybe transact 5 times in their life. And so it's really not hard. It's just kind of inefficient for the consumer to become overly educated on how real estate works because they don't do it very often. So there's not a great reason to. So why would they? I don't have any, no judgment or blame around that. Um, but it's difficult as an agent to help educate the consumer on what's the ins and outs and the intricacies of a well-performing agent or what that looks like. A lot of agents come into the business because the barrier to entry is so low, and it's not a complicated business. And yet, there's a lot of complexities to a transaction, and so it's kind of one of those like it's easy to learn but difficult to master because it takes a lot of like all of us, we learn through experience. And in real estate, it's really hard to get that experience when the average agent isn't selling any homes, but the ones that are selling about 4 years. So maybe two buyers, two listings. So again, it's just the more repetition, right? It's why we find that real estate teams really tend to work is because it exposes agents to a lot of transactions quickly, right? So they get that experience a little bit faster, which allows them to grow more and understand the ins and outs. What you said, I think, spot on, right? The HGTV version of real estate. I think any job's like that, right? I
Yeah.
think that if I were gonna, when I look at other people's jobs and that look fun, I'm like, oh, that must be awesome, right? Like all they do, like all the doctor does is show up and be a doctor. And it's like, no, there's paperwork and there's business and there's accounting and there's all these other things if you own a private practice and there's marketing and there's client attraction. There's all of those pieces that come with owning a business to where they don't teach that in real estate school, right? You tend to primarily focus, not, you do a lot of buyers, but your sweet spot has been listings over the years. Why is that? What's attracted you to the listing side of the business or made you so good at that?
More control of your time in terms of you're not actually out showing, buyers all the time. And there's even a leverage piece for that. It just really allows me to, you mentioned a doctor's office, right? They call in and say, I need an appointment, right? And you're looking at your schedule and you're able to kind of just plan around your schedule, especially, having 3 kids, 3 and under when I got into this business and or 5 and under, it was really challenging. And so just setting up kind of those barriers in the calendar accordingly and being able to really focus on the selling process, right? Because if they're selling, they've already bought. And so they're already semi familiar with the process. Now, it may have been 10 years since they sold, but really being immersed in the market. There's nothing wrong with a part-time agent. I have chosen to be a full-time agent so that I can show up, as a better version for myself, my family, and my clients.
Yeah, and look, kudos to you. You are the gold standard on being able to balance a highly run, well-run real estate business while still being there for your children, while still having a healthy relationship with your spouse, while still being active in the community. You're the model. I think anybody in this town would hold you up as the gold standard as somehow being able to get. I don't know if you sleep, but being able to get it all done all the time. So again, just so proud of you for what you're able to do and being able to kind of keep all that going. The other great thing about listings is you get to have an instant pulse on the market, right? Like immediately after this weekend how many showings you had, what is the buyer's aptitude, the current pricing out there. Where if you don't, like, what do we have right now, Dana? 70, 80, 90 listings or something like that. Probably another 30, 40 coming soon. It's somewhere in the 80 to 110 listings somewhere in the visible pipeline, which gives us instant feedback. Everybody else has to wait. In order to understand the June market, if you don't have that inventory, you really have to wait until the data comes out in mid-August around the June supply line, right? And so to me, that is a critical piece that we gloss over so often. That you go like, we have data 6 weeks faster than those that are having to wait for the reports to come out, where we can make real-time decisions, educate your clients, educate our clients quickly as to what's going on in the market, which gives us a competitive advantage. If I only have 2 listings and I don't really have a pulse on what's going on in the market, I've got to wait for somebody to explain it to me, which may be at a team meeting or it may be 4 or 6 weeks later when reports come out. If I'm an agent that's even reading the reports and paying attention, right? And in this market, man, so critical that my agent or my expert that's getting paid a healthy fee for, like, you're getting paid healthily. Is that a word? I don't know if that's a word or not, right?
Sounds good.
All right, sounds good. So getting paid well for the job you do, and so I think an educated agent, right, someone who is paying attention to the economy and the reports and how all this works, is so good. So if you were going to get into the business today, is there anything you do different or anything you did well that you would do again?
I mean, I still, again, I shopped different brokerages before I got into the business just to kind of see what the best fit for me was. That really came down to culture and education. And so I will always stand beside Keller Williams and say that they are a brand of culture and teaching and coaching. And so that's why I chose Keller Williams. Also interviewed with single agents and interviewed with multiple teams. And you really got to kind of figure out where you fit in and how you want to run your business. You need to know that first, right? Am I going to do this part time? Right. Then you're probably want to, either team up with another agent, do a coaching, program if you have that with your brokerage, or join a team, right? So figure out the systems and the processes and how to manage your time. And so, yeah, I would say that's why I'm still here
But
11 years.
also, I'll also say that's what makes you so good at your job is like that thought process. Look, 20 years ago when I interviewed my first brokerage, I thought I was interviewing for a job. I thought I was actually like applying and they were going to let me know how I did, right? I didn't understand that I kind of got to choose where I go because now I'm an independent contractor. And so the fact that you take the forethought, you outline what you're trying to accomplish, you go research your options, and then you make a choice and execute effectively, I think speaks to probably why you're so successful at this. I think if everyone at least took that approach, they would be making informed decisions. And just to what you said, there is no right or wrong way to do it. There's what is your plan and how do you want to approach it? There's a high intensity, high accountability environment like here at the Huffaker Group where we're going to push on you and we're going to ensure that you're doing the right things to be successful. Now you may tap out and say like, you guys are crazy, right? I don't want to work that hard. And we go like, that's cool, right? We take that as well. We're happy when people say that because we know like that keeps top performers working with top performers. You may also say like, look, I want to do this. I want to be able to serve my community. I want to be able to do 3 or 4 deals a year. And with that comes like getting around a group of other top performers or other individuals that think that way, that you can glean information from, that you can share ideas, it is about the community that gets created. For me, at least, real estate can be a lonely sport, and I've always been involved in fraternities or social organizations or clubs in high school or whatever it is. I like to do things with other people. And so for me, it is as much about the camaraderie and the community that we get to build to iron sharpens iron as it is about how much fees cost or things like that. Right. And so I hope everybody kind of takes the full balance to it.
I do think, if as a new agent too, I came in with the mindset that I wasn't going to make any money for 6 months. Now, fortunately, I have, a spouse that was there to support me in that decision. But I think a lot of people come in and it's just going to be instant business and
Yeah.
it isn't like that. So I think you just got to have your mindset right. And if you come in with kind of, also you don't want to take every listing, right? Or I've been in listing appointments too, where, the other agent said that they can, sell my house for XYZ, well, I would say fire me if I told you to list your house for that because, I'm not going to win. You're not going to win. You're not going to sell your house and get to where you need to go. I'm not going to make any money. We're going to both end up upset at the end of the day. And so, I go in with raw and pure data and information and what to expect. I'm not there to just win your listing and tell you what you want to hear.
That's right.
You gotta
That's
have
right.
that
We don't
reality.
control the market. We only interpret the market, and we call that buying the listing, right? We know that there are people go out and tell you a price you want to hear because they're going to win your listing, knowing that they're going to talk you down on pricing over time, which we know ultimately nets you in 1 to 3% less money. On a $500,000 house can be $5 to $15,000. It's a big chunk of change when it comes to moving the product, and so I'm with you on that. I also think that there is a point of education that we probably underestimate. So we could talk about this all day. We'd always encourage someone, come to a business clinic with us, come and sit. We are at least for the Huffaker Group, broker agnostic. We like sharing information and believe that our industry gets stronger when we all lean in together, independent of what brokerage you're at. It really does not matter to us. We like for all of us to be skilled and educated because it's what's best for our community and for our consumers. So if you want to join us at some point, if you're out there listening and want to pop into a meeting, come to a training, spend some time, just go grab a cup of coffee. Happy to do that. No pressure whatsoever, just as an opportunity, either with myself, with Dana, whoever, for us all to get better. All right, Dana, going into the final months here of the spring, summer now, summer selling season. What do we need to know? What do we need to know as we go through the next 60 days for the real estate market? What do you think happens?
Yes, definitely, like we said earlier, pricing it at a price that's going to cause it to sell versus sit on the market. And even, I'm having discussions with sellers where, 60, 90 days ago, we were priced accordingly. And yet the market responds, right? We can't, I have one house right now. We can't control the location or the proximity to the road or how the lot lies. And yet that's how the market is responding. So what can we do to incentivize someone to choose us over our competition? But also being patient, right? Days on market are still teetering between that 50 and 60 days. And so it's just not going to be instant. And that's why we, as you said earlier, keep a pulse check. So with our clients, we're delivering market data, on a weekly basis, and feedback, from our showings and things of that nature too. So being patient, being smart, and being a little bit more aggressive than the competition.
Yeah, yeah. Again, the industry or the market tends to move in a little bit of a herd mentality. I find it interesting that we struggle for the different. There is such pent up demand, right? We clearly saw that in March when rates dipped. That 5.9 number really mattered. 6%. We get there, the market psychologically really unlocks. You saw what happened over the last 4 months. As rates have crept back up to 6.5%, you see that slow down. It's interesting that a 0.5% on a 30-year mortgage causes us to make decisions around shelter, which is a necessary human need. And yet we don't really squabble whether it's a 22% or a 29% rate on our credit card, right? Or if we're going to finance a car, So again, I would challenge buyers to think in perspective of what really does a 0.5% mean, and then have conversations with your agent or have conversations with Dana or with me or whatever, and really think about the impact that 0.5% has. It is money, no doubt, right? But in relation to what's going on in the market, it may be less important than you think, or the terms that you get on the house in other areas may offset that 0.5%. So that's where I think working with an educated agent that can show you the differences and not just saying, well, it's a 0.5% higher or my payment is $250 more a month and I can wait till that comes down. I think there's some real smart people out there that can kind of show you the pros and cons of that and help you make an educated decision. Educated decision also being you may choose not to buy. That is a completely acceptable outcome as long as you've been educated on the conversation. That's all we ask, is that people make informed decisions and not emotional decisions or the advice of Uncle Eddie that hasn't sold a house in 40 years, right? Just talk to a professional, right? Cool.
Trying to find it on my phone right there, but I had seen a stat that Dave Ramsey actually put out this past week, and now I can't find it because my phone hit the dust last week. But it was basically like, stop spending money on stupid stuff, right? Did I really need that $7 coffee this morning from Starbucks? I really needed the iced coffee. I really, really needed it. But if you're getting coffee on your way to work each morning, $6 times 5, that's $30 a week, right? $120 a month. You can be investing in your future self and your future home if we just all make better purchasing decisions too.
Yep. Yep. Last thing I'll say, I was talking to Gary yesterday. I said, Gary, what keeps the market going up? Right, like over time, over a timeline, we know that stock markets, real estate markets go up and to the right. And I was listening to somebody on TikTok that said, like, just because they always go up doesn't mean that they'll always go up. And I go, like, that could be true, right? I mean, maybe the real estate market is at a peak. Maybe they don't continue to go. So I asked Gary about that, being the oracle of real estate. And he said labor, right? Essentially labor costs. As people go in and get cost of living raises on a yearly basis of 2 to 3%, that increases the amount of income that they have, but that labor also applies to the housing market, and new construction is really where you see that show up. So as labor costs go up, that impacts the cost of materials. So as long as materials and labor continue to go up, which they will because people ask for cost of living raises, that's why you kind of see that 2 to 4% baseline increase, is because in order to sell that house and make a profit, those builders are also having to give cost of living increases. And so he's like, David, it's real simple. It's as labor goes up, the cost of materials go up, the cost to build a home goes up, new construction, that's the kind of the tipping point or the peak of where prices can end up. It's why we had so much overpricing during COVID, is because builders did not build houses, so there was no longer a lid on what a resale seller could charge. Right now, as we're seeing more new construction, how much are we competing with that, Dana? Right? I mean, somebody wants to list their house and then go buy a new construction home down the street for $669, really makes it difficult for us to list it at 700. Right? And so in the real world, you see that builder business setting the barometer of what we can actually price homes at. And because people are going to consistently ask for price of living increases, that's what drives a real estate market or a stock market or anything else up and to the right. And I go like that. It's a very simple answer, but I was like, that's a good answer, right? Which really made me feel, helped me understand better. Like most, all the great answers are fairly simple. So I thought that was cool. Hope that helps. All right, good chatting with you this week. We're back on schedule. We're both back from vacation, so we can get back to putting these out once a week. We know we've got so many fans out there, Dana. If they want to reach you, what's your cell phone number?
I think I have any fans.
Yeah, there's some. They just said, we don't tell you about your fan club. We don't want your ego to get too big.
615-788-0730.
Oh, see, we should put you on the radio. That sounds great. All right, if you need something, call Dana. See ya.
That's right. See ya.